Hey guys, alright, welcome back. You are watching How to Draw Creepy Creatures with me, Arthur. I'm actually kind of excited today because I got my first request. One of my subscribers, Lil Squeak, asked for me to do a lesson on how to draw a Navajo Skinwalker. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, a Skinwalker, in Native American belief, is a witch who sold their soul in order to gain eternal life. The thing is that in order to do that, they have to shapeshift into these horrible creatures so that they can hunt humans and animals to eat their life force. Now, what's really scary about a skinwalker is that they don't shapeshift completely, so they still retain human characteristics or the characteristics of other animals that they've taken the form of when they're shapeshifting. Now, they'll often wear the skin of an animal, and that is believed to give them their power. Kind of like, if you know about the German serial killer Peter Stube, who had a belt made out of wolf skin, he believed it could turn him into a wolf. Same basic principle. Now, Lil Squeak actually asked me to do a deer man version of the Skinwalker. Now that one usually wears the skin of a deer, and it uses that disguise to lure hunters towards it, kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing. What's really creepy about this is that the skin usually fuses to the skinwalker as he wears it, so it becomes part of his skin, but not completely. You'll see what I mean once I get into it. Okay, let's start with the head. I might put this a little bit lower because this is supposed to have antlers, so I want to leave plenty of room. Okay. Now we're going to make the body much more emaciated, kind of like the Wendigo. In fact, this legend is very similar, but he's going to be even skinnier than the Wendigo because I kind of imagine his torso like that of a deer. Okay. Yeah. Change the position of that leg a little bit just because we need to make this more dramatic. Alright, so the human frame is, well, the frame is basically human, like you can see that. Except there's an extra bend in the legs. I'm going to make them look kind of human, but almost like they're in the middle between changing between human and deer, but they haven't quite achieved that. So what we're also going to do is that we're going to give his arms, instead of like normal human arms, yeah, look at that. Okay, so they're almost like changing in between human and deer. So they've got that extra bend there, but we're going to put like raggedy hooked hands on the end. Kind of like he's in the middle between changing between human and deer. Yeah, it's really creepy. The thing is that with skinwalkers, in traditional legends about werewolves and were creatures, usually, unlike the Hollywood version, they just take the full form of the animal. Like in most French and German accounts of werewolves, they don't look like wolfmen, they just look like normal wolves. Skinwalkers, though, they can't actually completely take the form of whatever it is they're trying to take, whatever they're trying to shapeshift into. So it's like a sloppy half transformation. So from far away, it looks like a normal animal, but close up you see that it has human characteristics and characteristics from other animals. Okay, so in fact, because we're going to do a deer leg, deer and horses kind of have a very square-shaped joint in the middle there. Okay, so remember when you're doing that joint, you kind of add a square so that you know what to draw around once you get to the finer details part. Okay. Now we're going to draw in the waist very, very tightly. This is going to be very skinny. Going to add a lot of detail towards the pelvic bone. Okay? Okay. Alright, now they're supposed to be wearing like a deer skin or a deer skull on their head. So I'm going to have it like this headdress almost. This headdress with like a flap of deerskin hanging to it, except it's going to be fusing to his body, as if it's like blending with him and becoming part of him. Okay, so I'm gonna draw. If you remember the Wendigo episode, you probably already know how to draw a deer skull, so let's just do that. Okay. Yeah, we don't want it to be like a nice, neat skin, like a professional taxidermist would do. We want it to be like a sloppy, torn skin because the skin becomes part of him, but it's also dead, so it's partially decomposing. Right, we're gonna do antlers. But unlike the Wendigo, which had like these neat, realistic antlers, I'm gonna give it like broken antlers. Kind of like they're falling apart, like they're just wrong. So just draw like the basic area of what you want the antlers to look like. Okay, you see that so far? Now, gonna have a somewhat human face, but off, once we get to the finer details. Okay. Okay, so your basic sketch, before you get into the finer details, should look something like this. Now we are going to erase most of this. Right, I'm going to start with the front legs first. Okay, so you want them to look very thin because deer legs are naturally very thin. Okay. Right, now, instead of hooves at the end, we're going to give it hands, but the hands are going to look slightly off. So just imagine like long, stumpy fingers that are trying to turn into hooves, except they end with like these jagged nails. Okay. In fact, I don't really like that very much. I think I'm going to make the nails kind of pointier. Oh yeah, that's... Okay, that's very unsettling. Okay, let's keep going with it. Also, I'm going to add like a little bit of detail around his chest area, like the muscles there. Right, let's move on to the second leg where we repeat that. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so this is what we got so far. Now we're going to add the muscles and ligaments around the neck. I kind of imagine that when the neck is tensed, you can often see those ligaments when it's not, that you wouldn't normally be able to see, and I imagine that this creature is very tense. He's looking, he sees prey or something like that, and his whole body is poised to react. Okay. Yeah. Draw the kneecaps. In fact, what's really interesting about this is that the killer deer man motif is actually very common in folklore all over the world, in Russian and German mythology as well. They have creatures that are very similar to this. Yeah, just kind of like a, I guess it's like a hunter's worst nightmare sort of thing, especially for people who relied on venison as their major source of food. The idea of like an evil deer must have been really scary to them. Okay. Alright. In fact, there's actually a really good Netflix, one's not a movie by Netflix. I think you just get it on Netflix, called Devil in the Dark, which deals with this subject matter, like the Skinwalker and the Deer Man legend. It's really good. Yeah. Okay. Now I imagine his feet here to be like human feet that are in the middle of turning into hooves. So for toenails, we're going to give him hoof-like toenails, just like these big, thick, black toenails. Like, deer also have those little, I don't know quite what you call them, but those like little toe pad things coming out of the back. So we're going to give him those. Yeah, I don't know what the heck these little bumpy things are called. I just know that deer have them. Okay. Alright. Gonna thicken up his thigh a little bit because I notice it's not quite proportionate with the other one. Okay. Now here's the interesting part. We're gonna try to make the skin, well, the deer pelt, look like it's fusing into him, like becoming part of him. Alright, so. Okay. Alright, remember to keep the skin raggedy. You don't want it to look too neat. You want it to look like it's torn, it's rotting. Okay. Alright. Add those little ploopy things here. For the life of me, I have no idea what those things are called. Okay. Okay. Alright. Now we're gonna work on... Alright, this is what you should have so far. Now we're gonna work on his face just a little bit. Okay. I imagine like just a stretched, semi-human face. Kind of like almost like a Voldemort kind of face, if that makes sense. Alright, so just draw like very basic features so that you know what you want later on, just so you kind of have a placeholder. Alright. We're going to do heavy shading around the eyes, kind of to make them look more like sockets. Like his eyes are very sunken in. Now there's a few different directions we could go with for the mouth. What's really scary is that some people report that skinwalkers grin, kind of like their mouths are so exposed that it looks like they're constantly smiling. That is so freaking creepy, so we are going to go with that. I'm going to draw some teeth here like they're exposed. Also, we're going to give it kind of jaggedy teeth in the front. I'm going to widen his chin just a little bit because it doesn't look like it could support a mouth that big otherwise. Okay, it's a very basic face so far, but I'm going to add a little bit more detail. Gonna add some wrinkles. Yeah, that's a little better, huh? Okay. Now we're going to go to the headdress thing that he's wearing. I imagine just kind of like this moth-eaten deer pelt. Yeah, okay. So we're going to not give this deer any eyes, just like it's an empty, just empty sockets where the eyes should be. You ever notice that deer sometimes have this black mark around their muzzle area, so I'm going to give it that. Also, let's get into the antlers now. Now, if you remember antlers from the Wendigo episode, then that's great, but now I'll just walk you through it. You just sort of do like sharp points. You want it to look very even, kind of like a tree almost, except much more symmetrical. Right. Oh dear, have like a point growing out here. And in fact, I'm going to make the other antler broken, kind of like it just cracked off. Alright. This is what we got so far. Okay, now, oh, oops. Try not to drop your stuff when you're drawing like me. Now we're going to add the finer details. We're going to Just want to make sure you can see that. Right. Now remember how to shape the skin. Smooth, steady circles. Okay. Now what's great about this is that because the Skinwalker takes a lot of different forms and that they're all warped, twisted versions of the animals he's trying to take the form of, you can pretty much go any direction you want with this. You can make a bear Skinwalker, a wolf. I've heard of panther Skinwalkers that are pretty creepy. Alright. You can combine any number of animals you want. Alright. Let's erase some more. Alright, let's add some more ribs around here because he's supposed to look very emaciated. Add some detail around the muscle, like maybe a little shading to define where the muscle is being pulled. Alright. And finally, add your artist mode. And there you go. You have just drawn a Navajo Skinwalker. Alright, guys. That was actually really fun. That one was a good one. In fact, a really great suggestion, too. Alright, so like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any other suggestions, I would love to hear them. I love doing requests. So you guys keep doing your research. Keep on coming up with scary creatures for me to draw. As long as it's nothing too freaky. And I will see you guys later. Alright, thanks. Bye.